Well, good morning, everybody. This is Pastor Don. Going to do a little motor video log on my way to the church office and a couple other errands. We're going to be taking the back way from our house out into the National Forest just a little bit, not so far that we'll get stuck in the snow, like some people have done in the last week. So for those of you who have been driving out Finley Butte Road, it's not maintained for winter travel after you get past Finley Butte proper. And there's been numerous call-outs for Deschutes County Search and Rescue to get people out there that are stuck in the snow. So don't be stupid, just don't do it, and wait till it melts down. I know some of us are starting to go a little bit stir crazy, but we're just really the first few days into this stay home, stay safe thing, and you're not doing anybody any good if people have to come out and rescue you. Those resources could be better used elsewhere. So we're driving in a 1997 Jeep Wrangler. It's supposed to be about as American a vehicle as you can get. However, the transmission is from Japan, and the fuel injection system that they put on these back in the late 90s is actually from Peugeot, which is a French company. So go figure. And even though this was a Jeep that was built when Chrysler, before Daimler bought them out, when Chrysler bought them out, it has an AMC engine. It's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, but it really isn't an AMC engine because those were actually purchased by AMC from General Motors. And the Chrysler Corporation, when they redesigned the Wrangler and put it into production in 1997 with round headlights again, thank you very much, they look better. Rather than put their own engine in it, they just used up their stock of General Motors built AMC branded engines, which is fine. It's gutless, but most of the time it runs pretty good. It's been pretty reliable. In fact, it's probably in better shape than I am, so we just keep driving it, and it's fine for putzing around out here. So this road that we're on, this is the end of Roslyn Road. Roslyn Road is a Deschutes County road that turns into a Forest Service road. Well, right behind us, actually. So we're just going to take the slightly longer route to the office. Look at the woods and just enjoy the scenery and God's creation. Right along with me today are my two dogs. You can't see them in this video. Flash the hound dog is in the front passenger seat, hoping that he'll see a squirrel, and if he does, you will hear him. And in the back seat is a German Shepherd named Heidi. They both love to go for rides. Now we can't go very fast, because, well, it's a Jeep. Jeeps really aren't designed for going really fast on rough roads, but they will go almost anywhere. That's reasonable. Of course, one of the last people to get stuck was somebody from Bend that took the China Hat Road, which is a 50 or 60 mile long gravel road that comes out of Bend. It intersects with Finley Butte about 26 miles or so east of Highway 97. Took his family out in his Jeep Wrangler and then started heading west on Finley Butte, but it climbs in elevation. He did it during a snowstorm and he got stuck, and nobody could come get him, so they had to send search and rescue in with a snowcat type thing to pull him and his family out. So once again, please don't do that. You're just wasting everybody's time and resources. Better spent somewhere else. Anyway, so we're just going to cruise along here in the Jeep. This is the 9750 road. It's really a pretty nice gravel road, most of it. You'll notice that in Oregon, a lot of logging roads have this red cinder gravel on them. If you're not from around these parts, this is very volcanic country, and there are little cinder buttes scattered all around here, and that red cinder gets mined out and used to gravel some of these roads back when there were very active logging going on in here and other activities. It's also used for traction sand on Oregon highways, so if you wonder where all that red gunk comes from that gets spread all over our roads in the wintertime, well, it comes from little buttes that sometimes you'll see out here. Maybe in the next video I'll drive you up on the side of one of those. Some people used to buy that red rock as landscaping rock around their houses. They used to ship it all over the country. I really don't know why. It's actually kind of ugly. I mean, it's interesting in a scientific sense and a geological sense, I guess, but I think there's better things to put around the flower beds or foundation near your house than this stuff. I have a bunch of it lining my driveway that somebody had put there as kind of a driveway marker before I purchased the home. While it's certainly unique, it's not very attractive. The neat thing about living where we live is this little road that we just passed here goes straight back to the west and comes out right behind our house. Unfortunately, there's other private property that one must go through to get back to our home, so that's why we take the little loop around the corner there. Like the gravel roads back where I came from, which was Spokane County, these ones get a little washboardy too. Although I think the roads around Valley Ford, Washington actually get quite a bit rough from all the vehicle traffic that's out here or out there. Here it's mostly just people like myself that want to drive through the woods. There's no homes on this road. This is in the National Forest. Shoots National Forest, that is. So it's people in their Jeeps and their pickup trucks and side-by-sides and motorcycles mostly that just come out here and kind of tool around. Maybe we'll get lucky, see some elk out here. Here about a month ago I had about 30 of them across the road right about 50 yards in front of this Jeep, so that might be kind of fun. Didn't see any during hunting season last year, but they're here now, so we get to enjoy looking at them sometimes anyway. There's cougar in this country, and they've raised quite a bit of havoc around Lapine over the last few years. Every once in a while somebody spots a bear. I doubt that we'll see one down here this close, but they'll be roaming around the sides of Paulina Peak, which is just about 5 or 6 miles to the northeast of us. But one time, according to the local historians, before we're sitting in a valley. Before this was all logged out in the early 1900s. This was all pretty much giant ponderosa pine trees through here, huge ones. The ones we see here are replants. So when this valley was clear cut out, and there's old historic pictures of Lapine that show the old part of downtown Lapine, if you want to call it that, and it looks like an atomic bomb went off. There's so many trees out. What grew back at their place was lodgepole pine trees, which grow nice and straight, tall and skinny. And not very strong. They're not a real desirable tree. So it appears what the Forest Service is doing now as they do their thinning operations is trying to regrow those ponderosas to make it like it used to be, and I hope they're successful. So over here on the right, part of what they do is they come through, thin things out, do a prescribed burn. They don't call them controlled burns anymore because it might get out of control. Do a prescribed burn and burn a lot of the brush, stuff off underneath it. You think it would kill all these trees, but it actually doesn't. Kill some of the needles off. Eventually they'll drop to the forest floor and grow new ones. The more ponderosas are out here dropping pine cones. And fire helps those pine cones open up. Eventually start new trees. We'll have even more ponderosas growing out here. So if you're watching this and if you don't know who I am, my name is Don Manning. I'm not going to be shy about putting that out over the interweb. I am currently a pastor at the Lapine Community Church. There's a lot of churches in Lapine, but there's only one that's named Lapine Community Church. It has been there since the 1960s, I believe. It's kind of hard to find actual history on it. It's really since the late 1960s. It's the position of pastor has been filled by an organization known as Village Missions, and I'm a village missionary. You can find them on the internet at www.villagemissions.org. Village Missions is not a denomination. It is an organization that places pastors at the request of rural American and Canadian communities. I want to say there's a little over 200 churches in the United States served by village missionaries. Not sure on my Canadian brothers. I'd have to jump on the website and look that up. So I'm sorry I didn't research before doing this video. Anyway, Lapine used to be a very rural community. It certainly looks rural in this video, but it's actually a pretty good sized town. We have numerous restaurants, all of which are closed except for to-go orders right now. We have a Buy Mart. It's one of my favorite stores. You can find just about anything you need there. We have 3 grocery stores, to include a grocery outlet and a Dollar Tree. We have a hardware store. We have auto parts stores. We have a couple of drive-up coffee stands, barber shops, beauty salons, and of course we've got liquor stores and marijuana stores. If you look at the order that the governor put out yesterday, that included essential businesses to stay open, the one at the top of the list was cannabis stores. Oh, really? Well, I guess maybe some people think that's essential, but you can agree to disagree with me, because I don't consider that to be essential. Liquor stores are staying open too. That's not really essential. What is essential to the state, though, is the tax revenue they get off those. So just something to think about. That's my political rant. Oop, got a little snow coming up there. That's my political rant for the day, and I'll stop with that now. So is this going to hurt our economy? Well, certainly it already has. Will we recover from it? Well, to some extent, I believe we will, but that remains to be seen. I think in this time we can remind ourselves, and maybe we never thought of it this way is anytime the economy is good, anytime the economy is really good, there will be a downfall every time. It's kind of like gravity. What goes up must come down. And what goes down, well, most of the time goes back up. But certainly we should not put our hope in low unemployment and low inflation and good salaries and good benefits, because those come and those go. There's only one thing in this world and outside of this world that is completely unchanging, and that is the Creator who made it. His name is Jesus Christ. And you may say, but wait a minute, Pastor. Jesus didn't create the world. A God of my understanding, or God did. The Bible tells us all things were made by Him and through Him. Without Him, nothing was made. And that is, in the context of it, is referring to Jesus Himself. It's okay, dogs. We're just taking the dirt trail over to the pavement. My dogs are getting a little excited in here. John 1:1 says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God at the beginning. So Jesus was at creation. And what we're enjoying out here today is a little bit of Jesus' work. Obviously, it's been modified by man numerous times. Jesus didn't make this little trail. He didn't plant these particular trees. But He created the first ones. I want to read to you from the book of Isaiah. This is a book of prophecy from the Old Testament, written around the 600-ish BC era, as the nation of Israel was continually under attack and being carried off. And they were in great distress. And yet in Isaiah 44, starting at verse 23, says, sing, O heavens, for the Lord has done it. Shout, you lower parts of the earth. Break forth into singing, you mountains, O forest, and every tree in it. For the Lord has redeemed Jacob and glorified Himself in Israel. That, of course, is a prophecy about the nation of Israel, that they would eventually make a comeback. They didn't make this comeback under their own power. They made this comeback under God's power. We've seen that in the 20th century. Israel did not have an autonomous government. Is that the right word? From about the 600-ish BC era until 1948. It's interesting, the United States was the first country in the world to officially recognize Israel as a sovereign nation. That was when Harry Truman was the president after World War II. The United States, under our current president, is the first nation to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. We recognized it a long time ago, but we didn't do anything about it. Not until just a couple of years ago, when our current president ordered our embassy moved. Just things to think about. Something else to think about for Christians anyway. Are we paying attention to world events? Well, for non-Christians too. Are we paying attention to world events? What could this COVID-19 coronavirus thing what could this be leading the world to? Now, I'm not going to stand in front of the camera and with a cardboard sign and that says the end is near. Well, the end has been near since the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Christians have been looking forward to that day, the end, ever since. And it will come eventually. We can't say for sure when. However, the entire world is in disarray. I believe nations on every continent, if I'm looking at my quarantine map correctly, nations on every continent are basically going into lockdown. Most international travel has been restricted or curtailed or canceled. There's no better way to bring the world to its knees than something like this. And speaking of being it to his knees, are you on your knees praying? Are you praying every day for this situation? I hope so. So what I'm going to encourage the people in my congregation and anybody else who's listening is to set aside a time every morning when you wake up to pray. To pray for an end to the virus. Pray for all of our first responders, our law enforcement, our firefighters and EMTs and ambulance drivers, our hospital workers, our nursing home workers, anybody who's truly working in an actual essential job. We thank you for what you're doing. Don't quit. Protect yourself. Take every precaution that is necessary to keep from getting this and taking it home. If you start to feel sick, do not go to work because you think you have to do that. You'll just make the rest of your team sick, make it harder for your agency or your company or whatever it is to do their job. The motto is stay safe and stay home, and I realize I'm not staying home at the moment. I'm heading to my office to grab a couple items so that I can do some of my work from home. Gonna grab the mail, then go home. So may God bless you and keep you until we can actually meet face to face again. And I, for one, when the restrictions are lifted, I'm going to be really glad to give a lot of people handshakes and hugs. So that I'm already starting to miss. Bye.